All right, movie fans, buckle up. We're going deep today, diving headfirst into one of the most quotable comedies ever, Dumb and Dumber from 1994. Yeah, you've probably seen it a bunch of times, maybe you even quote it religiously, but there's always something new to uncover in the world of Lloyd and Harry. It's like peeling back the layers of a big, goofy onion.
What really strikes me about this film is how it manages to be both hilarious and heartwarming. You've got this over-the-top absurdity that pushes boundaries, but underneath it all, there's this genuine affection between the two main characters.
Exactly. They're like two best friends on the most chaotic road trip imaginable. You've got Lloyd Christmas, played brilliantly by Jim Carrey. His brain operates on a whole other level, let's be real. And then there's Harry Dunn, played by Jeff Daniels, who we usually see in more serious roles.
And that's what's so fascinating about Daniel's performance here. He completely sheds that serious persona, embraces the ridiculousness of Harry Dunn. It's amazing he can go from a stoic lawyer in A Time to Kill to a guy gluing a severed head to his body.
Right. Like he's saying, I can do drama, but I can also rock a bowl cut and a chipped tooth with the best of them. And the chemistry between him and Carrie is pure comedic gold.
Absolutely, their comedic timing is spot on. They understand the rhythm of the Farrelly brothers' humor, know when to pause for a reaction, when to amp up the absurdity, when to drop that perfect one-liner.
Speaking of the Farrelly brothers, these guys are the masters of outrageous comedy. Their brand of humor is definitely not for the easily offended.
Oh yeah, but Dumb and Dumber has a special place in their filmography. It's got all the gross-out gags and politically incorrect jokes, but there's this underlying sweetness to it, this genuine affection between Lloyd and Harry that keeps it from feeling mean-spirited.
You're right, it's a delicate balance they strike. Like that scene where Lloyd accidentally poisons Joe Mendelino with rat poison. Darkly comedic for sure, but also played with a certain innocence.
Lloyd truly believes he's helping, and that naivete, combined with the absurdity of the situation, makes it hilarious.
I always cringe during that scene. But I can't help but laugh, too. It's like, oh, Lloyd, you sweet summer child, what have you done? That's the brilliance of the Farrelly brothers, making you laugh at things you probably shouldn't be laughing at. But they do it with this mischievous twinkle in their eye. They just have to go along for the ride.
It's a tightrope walk they manage to pull off. They ground the outrageous humor in these moments of genuine human connection. You see it in how Lloyd and Harry support each other, even when their decisions are monumentally idiotic.
Like when they trade their van for a mini bike. Who does that?
Right. It's like their brains are wired for maximum ridiculousness.
You know what, though? I kind of envy their carefree spirit. Just out there living in the moment, embracing the absurdity. Wouldn't necessarily recommend their approach to life, but it's definitely entertaining to watch.
Absolutely. Dumb and Dumber is the perfect escape. Allows you to suspend disbelief, embrace the ridiculous, and just let loose and laugh.
Totally. And speaking of letting loose, we got to talk about Jim Carrey's performance. He's like a comedic whirlwind, unleashing a torrent of physical humor and facial contortions that you can't even describe,
It's almost as if he's channeling some ancient spirit of slapstick comedy.
pushing the boundaries of what's humanly possible with his body.
The Farrelly brothers were smart to give him a lot of room to improvise. And Carrie takes full advantage, creating these moments of pure comedic chaos.
No, yeah, remember that scene in the bathroom at Mary's house where he's struggling with the broken toilet?
Man, the sounds. It's like he invented a new language of bodily noises.
And the Farrelly brothers use these long takes in that scene, letting the camera linger on Carrie as he makes those ungodly sounds. Like they were saying, go ahead, Jim, show us what you got. We're not cutting away. And he delivers.
And that's the magic of Dumb and Dumber. It's a film that's perfectly in sync with the comedic sensibilities of its actors and directors.
Like a beautiful, absurd symphony of comedic minds.
All committed to pushing the boundaries of absurdity and making us laugh until our sides hurt.
I gotta say, this deep dive is making me realize how much thought went into making Dumb and Dumber so funny. It's not just random silliness, it's carefully constructed chaos.
Exactly, and that's what separates a truly great comedy from a forgettable one. It's the attention to detail, the understanding of comedic timing, the willingness to embrace the ridiculous without sacrificing heart. And Dumb and Dumber has all of that in spades. And when you think about comedies from the 90s, Dumb and Dumber really stands out. It's not your typical rom-com or witty satire. It just revels in pure silliness.
Yeah, it's like this breath of fresh air, a big, goofy middle finger at all those comedy conventions. Not afraid to be dumb, loud, completely over the top. And it's hilarious because of it.
But it's not just random silliness. The Farrelly brothers are masters of visual comedy, too. Those iconic costumes, for example, powder blue and orange tuxedos, Lloyd's chipped tooth, Harry's bowl cut and that
Yeah,
mustache.
that mud-cut van. That van is practically a character itself.
Oh, totally. Every visual detail, from the costumes to the production design, it all amplifies the humor. Like they created this cartoon world where logic takes a backseat to absurdity.
And they use those visuals to set up some seriously memorable gags, like that scene where Lloyd's trying to impress Mary, pretending to be blind and spills hot coffee all over himself, the way his face contorts in pain, the steam rising from his crotch. Chef's kiss.
The Farrelly brothers really know how to milk a moment for comedic effect. They're not afraid to let a gag breathe, let the awkwardness or the pain linger, just long enough to make you squirm.
But it's never mean-spirited, though, right? You always feel that underlying affection for the characters, even when they're being totally idiotic.
That's it. We're laughing with Lloyd and Harry, not at them. Well, maybe a little at them, but always with fondness.
This brings us to something interesting about the movie's heart. Underneath the absurdity, Dumb and Dumber is about friendship. These guys might be morons, but they're loyal to a fault.
Yeah, their friendship is like the anchor of the film, the one constant in a sea of chaos and terrible decisions.
It makes their ridiculous journey feel meaningful.
And it's not just implied. The Farrelly brothers give us these little moments that show the depth of their bond.
Like that scene where Harry defends Lloyd against those bullies in Aspen. Played for laughs, obviously. But you see genuine affection beneath the slapstick.
Or when Lloyd tries to cheer up Harry after he loses his beloved van. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Classic Lloyd. Those little touches, those moments of sweetness, they add another dimension to the film. They make you care about these characters, even while you're laughing at their stupidity.
Speaking of stupidity, we have to talk about that van trade. Trading a perfectly good van for a mini bike. Now that's next level dumb.
I know, right? But somehow it makes sense in the movie. It shows how the Farrelly brothers created this world where logic doesn't exist. A world where anything can happen, no matter how absurd.
And it leads to some of the funniest scenes. Lloyd and Harry, bundled up in winter gear, cruising through the snowy mountains on that tiny bike. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
And the soundtrack. That quirky mix of alternative rock. It captures the movie's energy perfectly.
By Crash Test Dummies, Tub Thumping, by Chimpawamba. It's like a sonic time capsule of the 90s.
Totally. The soundtrack is like another character in the film. Adds to the humor and the absurdity. Remember when they're driving through the desert and Lloyd starts singing Mockingbird?
Oh, yeah, by Grant Lee Buffalo.
It's so wonderfully weird and out of place, but it fits perfectly with the tone.
You wouldn't expect a melancholy folk song to work in a slapstick comedy, but they make it work.
I know. And it's not just about being funny. The music highlights those moments of tenderness, too. The unexpected flashes of heart that give the film its depth.
There's this one scene that shows this blend of humor and heart so well. When Lloyd catches up with Mary in Aspen and confesses his feelings.
Oh, yeah, the penguin scene. Heartbreaking and hilarious.
Exactly. On the surface, it's a ridiculous scene. Lloyd's dressed as a penguin, stumbling over his words, totally out of his element. But you can sense his genuine affection for Mary. And when she lets him down gently, you can't help but feel for the guy.
It's those moments, those unexpected touches of pathos that make Dumb and Dumber more than just a dumb comedy. It's a film that understands that laughter and heartbreak can go together, that sometimes the funniest moments are the ones that tug at your heartstrings too.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. We've spent all this time talking about how funny Dumb and Dumber is.
Yeah.
But the more I think about it, the more I realize how much heart it has.
Yeah, that's true. Underneath all those crazy gags and slapstick, there's a real sweetness at the core of the story. It's about friendship, about finding joy in simple things, never losing that childlike sense of wonder, no matter what life throws at you.
And I think that's why people still connect with it today. We all need a bit of Lloyd and Harry in our lives. That reminder to not take ourselves too seriously, to embrace the absurdity of it all, and find humor even when things are tough.
Speaking of tough situations, we got to talk about that ending. When Lloyd finally realizes Mary is married, it's hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time.
Oh, totally. He's so naive.
Yeah.
Utterly clueless. But you can't help but feel for him.
Jim Carrey's performance in that scene is perfect. The way his face just falls when it hits him, the way he stumbles over his words. It's comedic genius.
It's those little touches of sadness, that sense of lost innocence, that make it unexpectedly poignant.
And the fact that they end up back where they started, walking down the road together, it's both a defeat and a victory.
They didn't get the girl. They didn't become rich and famous.
Yeah.
But they still have each other.
It's like a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones that lead you back to where you belong. with the people who really matter.
Exactly. And hey, maybe next time they'll remember to pack a lunch.
Speaking of memorable moments, this movie is so quotable, it feels like every other line is an instant classic.
Oh yeah, for sure. We landed on the moon.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Big gulps, huh? All right, we'll see you later.
It's amazing how those lines have become part of our culture.
You hear them everywhere.
From conversations to memes.
It just shows the power of Dumb and Dumber. How it still makes people laugh all these years later.
And it's not just the lines, it's the characters themselves. Lloyd and Harry have become these iconic figures, representing pure, unadulterated goofiness.
Yeah, they're like the patron saints of idiocy, reminding us it's okay to be silly, make mistakes, embrace our inner dumbness, and in a world that takes itself way too seriously. That's a pretty powerful message.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dumb and Dumber, I think it's safe to say, this movie is so much more than just a silly comedy.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a testament to the power of laughter, the importance of friendship, and the pure joy of having fun.
It reminds us to never lose our sense of wonder, to embrace the absurdity of life, and always, always pack a lunch. And hey, if you're ever driving through Aspen and see two guys in mismatched tuxedos on a mini bike, give them a honk for us.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive on Dumb and Dumber, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more hilarious movie reviews. Until next time, keep on laughing.